reset, remember what's your core, remember what your identity is, what's your purpose, and then you can readjust. And I think that's something which is so important in understanding what exactly who you are and what you can offer and serve to whoever it is in the world.
Hey Zouk family, welcome back. It's another week, another creative conversation, and this week is with someone that greatly inspires me for multiple reasons. Linora is not just a friend, she's not just a very important wellness coach in the Malaysian community, but she's also a very accomplished lifter, having competed in the bikini bodybuilding 3 times in Singapore, Malaysia, and the Philippines. To compete is not just to get on stage, not just to have the guts to get on stage, but it shows a huge commitment to getting into the shape needed. So Linora is not just someone that's good for the mind, but she knows what's good for the body. Linora, this is a positive chat I've been looking forward to for a very long time. First and foremost, how are you?
Well, I gotta say, considering the situation right now, since we're in MCO part 2, not too bad, not too bad. And dude, can I say thank you? That was such a beautiful introduction that you gave me.
It's not justice, actually. I mean, I've met you in person. I've known you for a while. When I met you in person, you do radiate positivity, which is perfect for a wellness coach. And you're just super accomplished, which I am greatly appreciative of. I love fitness. I love lifting iron. You've competed, so you've reached the pinnacle of what I would love to do. So let's go one step at a time. And I think it's just past World Mental Health Day, which is, I think, something that's more recognized. It's not just more recognized in the fashion that it's more acceptable to talk about, but especially for men who used to see it as a weakness to describe mental health. I think we're discovering that a lot more people have mental health issues than previously admitted to. And I know this is a topic that's close to your heart, especially at times like now. In Malaysia, we've just gone into CMCO again, which is lockdown. People are super scared about jobs, they're super scared about virus, they're super scared about everything. And what's your best advice to people who might be out there saying, what do I do?
I think the first step is to take a moment and to breathe. That's the first thing. And then after that, come to the point that you got to accept that the situation is as such, but there is always a silver lining to everything. I can tell you, I'm right now in the thick of it, just like everybody, because when the CMCO hit, I actually wrote a post about it. I was saying like I had a wave of different emotions from, it was disappointment, then it was frustration. And after that, it was anger. And then after that, it was like insecurity. And after that, it was almost self-worth. I didn't know. So you see, it's like that whole wave that was just going through my head. And then finally I had to come to grips of like, okay, reset, remember what's your core, remember what your identity is, what's your purpose, and then you can readjust. And I think that's something which is so important in understanding what exactly who you are and what you can offer and serve to whoever it is in the world. And I think that also gives drive, because that gives you a purpose and a meaning for whatever it is that you're doing on a daily basis. So for whoever that's going like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore, refocus, realign yourself. So for me, I realign myself with 2 things. One is actually with God, and also with my friends and family members. So these are 3 very important things, because that holds me grounded. And I would say you guys have to find for yourself what exactly is your core. And then you can always come back to that. And it's so important. You must have a core that you can always, you can always make it as your base, which is your rock, which is your pillar. And that kind of sets the tone for a lot of things and just helping you mentally.
That's phenomenal advice. I think there's something I want to deep dive into that you just mentioned, and I hear it more and more nowadays, especially with people who are becoming disillusioned with not just the world, but maybe the job they're in, or disillusioned in a relationship, or importantly, finding it difficult to get up in the morning. And your purpose. How do you define purpose to someone? Because a lot of people might have worked for 10 years. I have friends in the UK that worked in banks for 10 years. They woke up one morning and said, I just lost my 20s. I get up at 6
Mm.
in the morning, it's dark in the UK, especially winter. I get home at 7 at night, it's dark in the UK.
It's all about serving. We're called to serve. And I liken to where, okay, I go in a day, how can I make an impact onto people? A lot of people say that they want to inspire. Okay, fine, great. You want to inspire, but the way you do that is by serving. And it is something which is not perfect for me all the time, but I try to remember every time when I feel irritated by something or where I just unsure. I go like, no, Lenora, what exactly is that for me is to serve others, and I try to do that. I may not be able to do it for every single person, but I do my best to always remember that how can I help someone today, how can I make it how can I give joy to anyone, or how can I just make something better for a person, even if it's just a smile or just asking how are you, anything at all, something small. And I think when you have that sense of serving others, it takes away the thoughts about you, and then you will eventually find your purpose. So like for me now, every time when I go like, okay, I feel like it's too much to do, finances, I don't know, because I'll be honest, I used to host quite a fair bit of events, and then right now stuff was coming back in, and CMCO happened and events were pulled all over again. So then I got to recalibrate my head and go, okay, Lenora, remember your purpose. What exactly is it you want to do for people? And for me, it's serving. And so my platform is I can serve through my clientele, who are the people I coach. I can do it virtually. Sure, it's not the same as doing it face to face, but that is still a means of doing so. I've got the social media platform, and thank God there is such a platform where we can share and our knowledge, our experiences, our thoughts. And I would say all that has given me the chance to fuel the purpose that I want to do for others and for myself.
It's phenomenal. I think you've just described perfectly what people can try and do, which is, I think the me thing is very prevalent nowadays. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's the impact of social media because we're so used to depicting our own lives. But actually, gifting is an incredibly powerful and emotionally rewarding event because you're giving out to someone else to try and improve someone else's life. And what better way to develop a value in yourself than impacting other people? As you say, some people say, I want to be impactful. It doesn't take a lot just by saying please or by saying thank you, or even just asking how someone is. My mom, when I was growing up, used to scold me if I went to the supermarket and I didn't ask the cashier how their day was. And I used to say,
Aw.
because she says to me, Joe, 1,000 people a day will walk past this person and never ask them how their day was. And so just by asking, you can actually make a difference. And so impacting other people is a lot simpler than we make out to be. So I think it's great that you have refined that into a clearly understandable description, because some people out there might be in the midst of all the confusion about what's going to happen in life without realizing that to make it a better place is a super easy process. You've just got to allow yourself to do it. Do you think that a lot of people get confused when they look at social media and they see mega rich people with Ferraris, or they see Jeff Bezos has made billions of dollars, and they think, I don't think I can do that, and they get depressed? I don't understand why.
I totally agree with you that it can muddle with the mind. And that's where it comes back again to understanding where you are and what you want for yourself. Because with social media, coming back, I always believe what you feed yourself, doesn't matter whether it's food, but also what you watch, what you read is so important, because every time when you feed yourself something, your brain is actually creating another branch of the synapses in your brain, and then it grows and grows. So say for example, if we see on social media all the time, oh, okay, this is how life is supposed to be. We're supposed to be on a beach. We're supposed to be having a massive car, massive house, and this is the life. Everybody has a big booty or a small waist and big ripped arms, and that is the epic lifestyle. Hashtag life goals, hashtag couple goals, and hashtag travel goals, all that kind of nonsense. And when you keep seeing, but you know what I mean, right? You keep seeing that, you're feeding your mind that. And when you continuously feed that, we don't really know how it's going to transform and relate in your brain. And this is from I love using this example from Dr. Caroline Lee. She's a cognitive research scientist, and she talks about the brain. And she's also a very spiritual woman. She was saying that the beginning is when they did a scan on the brain. The brain is this, when they colored it, it was this bright orange. And if, say, you took in something negative, you will notice that that section of the brain will suddenly become dark. This is after they colored it. So it's very interesting how your brain can relate so much to whatever it is that you're taking in. So like even right now, what you're listening to me, right, Joe, your brain is building something else. So if, say, for example, I were to watch a horror movie or something that's depressing, then my brain will also grow into another branch, which could be a darker section. And so likewise with social media, I say it's very, very important what anyone chooses on their feed and what they choose to read continuously is crucial, because you are building your brain, and you're building the things that you believe in, the things that you hold value to. So yeah, social media really a key thing on how you can improve and educate, but depending what exactly you're feeding your mind.
Yeah, I think I totally resonate with what you said. It's very difficult and shouldn't be advised to create an internal competition with yourself based on someone else's experiences and achievements, because we can't, there's too many relative components that are impossible to quantify. You know, Donald Trump, not my favorite person, not many people's favorite person, boasts that all it took for him to build his empire was $1 million loan by his father. Not possible for a lot of us. So how can you equate that kind of starting block versus someone who may come up in the kampung and has actually achieved a hell of a lot by becoming a teacher in their local school and educating hundreds of children each year that then go on and can read and write? I would argue that that is a much greater achievement than Donald Trump's business empire. But people can look and say, Jeff Bezos, hundreds of billions of dollars, but it took 30 years for Amazon to get off the ground. And Jeff Bezos also had a huge amount of luck. You cannot get anywhere without taking into account luck, but you shouldn't beat yourself up because luck hasn't necessarily shone on you, because you, honestly, if you can eat meals at the end of the day, you have someone that loves you, and you can wake up with your health, you're actually a hell of a lot luckier than a lot of other people out there. But people, we tend to not value what we have over what we don't have. And I find that a very bizarre way to live your life.
I just call that it's human nature. We always just want something which is better and better from what we already have. I don't know why, but that's but that's just the nature. And I think that's where we need to have that awareness of, okay, if this is something which is not, how you say, very appealing or not so, what's the word, edifying for our soul, then we need to be able to cut it off from you or find something else.
Yeah, I totally agree with it. Eliminating negative influences is probably the fastest way to cure yourself of many toxic habits, etc. But you ask, my brain is bursting in this conversation. I'll tell you what it does tell me. It tells me you're an inspiration. And I've told you this many times before. I'm not just saying this because we're chatting. What you did with your bodybuilding is massively inspirational to me. Anyone who knows me from going back to my university days, I used to look up to the likes of Arnie, Louis Ferrigno, Mr. Olympia. I just watched the Ronnie Coleman documentary on Netflix. I love it, love it, love it. And you have literally got on stage and given it your all and put yourself on the line in such a successful way in 3 different countries. And I think that is phenomenally respectful. I honestly, you've lived a small dream that I had when I was young that I never had the guts to do. So tell me,
you can still do it. You can still do it.
I can. But tell me, how did this come about?
It came about just because I started training at the gym, and I was like, okay, I'm training for so much. What's the point? And then one day I saw on, I think it was on social media somewhere, these girls who had phenomenal physiques, and they were dressed up like it was like a Victoria's Secret runway, but just that they had muscles and they had beautiful wings. And I remember the first girl I saw was Andrea Brazier. She is like the top. She is, I think, a 4-time, or I can't remember how many times, but she has won this federation called the WBFF, Fitness Diva. And my gosh, her physique is truly sensational. And I was like, okay, this could be something I can relate to. Because obviously, Victoria's Secret model, I know very well that my physique is not the slim model catwalk. I totally understand it. And I understand my anatomy. So I was like, okay, this is something now I can relate to, because it means that I can afford to have more muscles. It doesn't mean I have to be like super slender as what's shown all the time in the media and what I was told to believe back in the day. And so then I was like, all right, this looks like something I could do. I just don't know how to go about it. And then this is where I say that everything and everyone has a purpose. The person who got me into this was it, I actually find it so funny, the story. This person came to me, my friend Ryan, and he told me that, oh, his boss, Benjamin Seong from Australian Strength Performance, wants to come down and give a talk on hypertrophy. Back then was my early days of getting into the fitness scene, or rather just talking about fitness. Honestly, I didn't know much back then at all. I knew zilch. I'll be honest, I knew zilch. I just looked like I knew something. So he came down and he started talking, and I was like, oh, this coach, he coaches these athletes for bikini bodybuilding. I was like, oh my gosh, is this it? Could this finally be the chance that I get to go and try and compete? So got in contact with him. He did his course, and after that, I approached him further on wanting to compete, and the rest was history. And I said, okay, I want to try and do this for myself. That's one, because I wanted a challenge. And at the same time, I wanted to make, you could say, like a statement, because when in a very, I suppose, narcissistic way, when you do something like bodybuilding, there's such a huge transformation. And I pictured that transformation like, oh, okay, it's like a chubby little Linora, then now gets into a much more lean and ripped state. And I was thinking that time that could really make a statement to say, hey guys, you can do this too. If I can, so can you. But I didn't realize that by doing this competition, I learned so much more, Joe, about myself, in how I handle situations, in how I react to people, in how my mind changed. And in fact, I tell you, the time when I did my first comp, it changed me so much. I learned so much more about myself, and I suppose things I picked up about life in a span of 4 months, more than I ever did in my 30 years of living. I've said that many times. So that's why I would, for anyone, if you ever can do it, Joe. You should go try once, just to see how far you can push yourself mentally and also physically. Competing is not for everybody, especially bodybuilding. And the reason why is because other than the training part, I always feel like the training part is the easier part. The mind games of what you want to do and the food are the two things that plays in your head all the time, because the body is so related. Everything we relate to sometimes is with food. Joy, companionship and whatnot is related with food. And in Malaysia, everything is about food. So and that, because I had to control myself with food so much, it taught me a lot about nutrition, about how the body works, and just it created new experiences for me. And those you can never get anywhere else, because you experienced it. And then when I tell people about it, it's almost hard, because unless they actually gone through a competition where they have to restrict, or they have to really be so disciplined. Like I was so disciplined, it was ridiculous. I had to bring up my weighing scale all the time. When I wanted to go somewhere, I would cook my own food. It's say like, I don't know, I think when I was at your event in Genting, well, it was a joint venture with Volvo, remember? And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that time I was actually getting ready for my next comp, my third and final comp so far. And I remember I packed my own chicken in the fridge upstairs, and I was searching around of what else I could eat. So I would always have an awareness of like, okay, I know coffee bean, the chicken is decent because it's like 50 grams. So I know how to weigh it out. And wherever I go is like, okay, I can afford to eat just the meat. I don't know how it's cooked, but I can sort of make do. If it's vegetables, okay, I can sort of make do. So that awareness of how I pick and chose my food was on a whole different level, and it helps me to also take a look at what exactly how I want to plan my own nutrition. So in a nutshell, I did it because I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to see how far I could go with it. And I also wanted to just see what it's like with Lenora in the six pack, because that was that was I always said I want to have my dream bod before I get pregnant in my later life. So it's nearly there. It's nearly there. I still want to achieve one more before that ever happens. But yeah.
Can I ask you? I'm desperate to ask you. You got on
Sure.
stage. What's the voice in your head saying when you get on stage? And you see people out there and they're applauding you, and you're tensing and you're posing. What does your voice in your head say?
So here's the funny thing: when you go into bodybuilding, no one knows me. No one knows. I'm so used to where if I go on stage, people clap because they already know either I'm an MC or something. But going into a different country, no one knows you at all. So you're actually going onto a stage which is bare, and not many people would also be there to watch. So the first thing that goes through my head is, Lenora, you worked out this hard. Go there, nail your pose, smile, enjoy. Literally have fun on stage. And I think the one that I really had a lot of fun, even though my physique was not super on point, was my second comp. That was the one that I got the third placing. So I kind of already knew my physique was not happening that year because of a few complications, and my abs were not really popping out. So, but it doesn't matter. So when I got on stage, I was like, whatevs. I'm gonna have fun. I am going to show off whatever I have done for the past 5 months and relish it, whether it's what the judges want or not, because it's such a subjective game with bodybuilding. I don't care. I worked my butt off for this. I'm going to enjoy the limelight. And I think that translated because it showed I had confidence. So that's another thing with bodybuilding and with bikini. Other than your symmetry for your physique, you also got to have good presentation. So I do not doubt that I would like to think my presentation is usually good because I'm very comfortable on stage. But being nearly butt naked and in a bikini is very different from hosting. Sometimes I go like, I remember the first time I said to my coach, I might be just so nervous because I can't talk. This is the one time my biggest asset, which is my mouth. I can't talk when I'm on stage. I have to just stand. I said I will probably be so nervous. I would just go to the MC and say, give me the mic. I will start talking. But yeah, and my first thought when I go out is go have fun. You gotta have fun in what you're doing on stage.
Wow. So, I mean, there's a roller coaster of emotions there. There
Yeah.
is a great insight into, I mean, you have a lot of experience on stage. As you said, you've been there, you've managed to MC, speak in front of tons of people. You're a very confident public speaker. And I think, but then it's very different standing there in your underwear, as you say, in your bikini.
Yes.
But the journey to get yourself to where you want it to be, to get into shape, regardless of whether you're happy with it or not. From a spectator's point of view, it's phenomenally impressive. And I think you're going to be your own biggest critic. But from my perspective, you look incredible. So it doesn't. In your own head, you might be thinking, "Oh, I didn't do this." When you've got a bigger quads than I have, and you've got phenomenal abs, and you look great, and you're complaining about the tiny 1% body fat, and the rest of us are going, "Wow, she looks awesome." I think it's a real show of resilience and something that I think, as I said, is greatly inspirational.
Thank you.
Before we go, Linora, I just first of all want to say a colossal thank you for taking the time. As I say, you're someone that I admire greatly in Malaysia. You're someone that has a huge following, but because you've achieved and you've actually put into practice what you preach about anything is possible. You turn around and said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a shot and I'm going to get it there. And I think that's awesome. Before you go, I'd love you to give one piece of advice to maybe the young people who is predominantly the Zouk followers who may have just graduated or may be scared about the 20 or 30 years they've got a plan for ahead. What would be your word of advice now to people who are just starting out and saying, the world's a scary place. My parents have never been through this scenario. I don't know what to do. What would be your number one piece of advice?
Honestly, I didn't even go into thinking 20, 30 years. That's the first time I've heard people thinking, I mean, I've heard 5, 10 years. But I think the biggest advice I can give is to not lose hope. And once again, find your rock of what exactly is the thing that can ground you all the time. It's very hard for me to actually give um, any solid advice, I suppose, at this point, but finding a rock, finding that thing that will always bring you back, that you can hold on to, is really key. And for me, I will always say that God is going to be my rock because He's the same yesterday, today, forevermore. So you guys have to find that thing that can always make you resilient in whatever circumstances and calm all the storms that's in your head, in your heart. Because we right now we will never know what's going to be thrown at us. We don't know what curveball is going to come at us. We don't know if CMCO is going to last long. We don't know when this whole pandemic is going to end. But I do know that our human species, we are fighters. We are made as warriors, and all it takes is knowing a little bit about hope. So have hope in your hearts. And just to give an idea, right, just to give another piece of a story, I heard this a while back in a message, and I don't know if you heard of the rats research psychology, Joe. So
No.
this is so fascinating. A group of scientists, they had a research on a bunch of rats. So they wanted to test when they put in one group of rats into the water, they found that the rats were they were swimming for say about maybe 5 minutes. They started swimming, but after a while, they found that the rats would obviously get tired, and then obviously they would drown. So what happened was, while those rats, the ones that just continued swimming, they actually took the rats out. So when the rats were about to drown, they took out the rats. And there was another group of rats which they did not. Instead, they just go ahead and just let them try and see if they could swim it out. But the rats that were saved, they then realized something in their brain, and that was hope. So when they were put again into the water to swim, and they were left to swim, they swam for days. They did not just stop at like 5 or 1 hour. They just swam for days because apparently in the rat's brain, there was the psychology of hope there. So my main key message is always cling on to hope. There is always a silver lining in every aspect of life.
Yeah, that's really good words to listen to, because this is a large scale event, but we've all been through various issues in our own life of very different sizes to get us to today. And this is just a magnified effect because of social media, the news, everything else. So everyone has at one stage been unemployed. Everyone has at one stage struggled with a stressful family situation or had an exam coming up, and as you say, find your rock and look out to people who are around you who can help you out. Or I mean, during Emcee, I bought a lot of books from famous sports coaches because I felt that this was a great. I look at Bill Walsh, who used to look after the San Francisco 49ers, and he inherited a team that had lost 4 games on the trot, and then he won 5 Super Bowls. And not even knowing a huge amount about NFL, I just found it inspiring that he started off with this huge losing streak. And he said, had he not had that, he would not have understood what it took to become a winning team. If he'd inherited some superstars and just won the league, he'd never have known if he would have challenged himself or if his efforts would have actually worked. So I think you're right, hope is a great feature, and something I think that we can all afford ourselves some positivity, some laughter, some smiles, some inspiration. And you've inspired me today, Linora. I always enjoy bumping into you. And as I said, I've admired you from afar. You've done great things. You've done things that I've dreamt of doing. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today, because you've had so much depth. Normally we get the pleasure of people about music or about other substances, but you've really dug deep into topics that people might not want to talk about with their friends, but are really key topics right now. And I really, really appreciate that you brought that to the table for us.
Thank you. It's such a joy to talk to you, Joe. I mean, like, I've not seen you for over a year,
Yeah.
more than a year. Yeah. So I really look forward to going up to Genting or even just seeing you back here in KL. I really look forward to that. And I thank you that I get to have deep conversations. I always enjoy deep conversations with friends and with anybody because, hey, life can get deep. So best that we touch on the deep stuff.
Linora, thank you so much. You stay safe, look after yourself, stay COVID free, and keep being the ball of positivity. We'll be putting your socials at the bottom of the screen during this, and I highly recommend people come because you've always got something intuitive to say. And also, it always makes sense to look at someone who's got good advice or a really positive spin that can help us smile through tough times. So, Linora, thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Same. Like, wait, hold up. I want to take a photo. So this is a new way of selfieing. Okay, you ready? Let me see if I can selfie. Let me see if I can selfie this. Okay, there we go. 3, 2, 1. The new way of selfieing. Catch you soon, Joe.
Look after yourself.
Bye.